Hello, everybody. Welcome to Zone Defense. We talk all things NBA and NFL. Be sure to follow us on Spotify at Zone Defense Podcast, on Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and hit that subscribe button down below because it really helps out our channel a lot. Also, let us know down in the comments if you think the Lions will go 0-17 this season. They were the first team to go 0-16. Can they be the first team to go 0-17? Let us know in the comments down below. But today we will be doing our Week 7 NFL game picks. It's crazy to think that we're already at Week 7 of the NFL season, but how's it going, Roman?
I'm good, Drew. Thanks for that intro question. It's not looking great for the Lions. It was the worst game of the season. We can talk about that a little later, though. But another week of football. This actually is a very big week just because of all the bye weeks, and we'll talk about that a little later. But another great week for the pick'em for us last week. All of us did really, really solid. But I extended my lead once again, so I'm pretty excited about that. And unfortunately, Chris is not here, so it's just me and you today.
Yeah, Chris had some, I guess, prior engagements, so he couldn't make it out here tonight. But no big deal. We'll carry the load. Yeah, and you said it was a good week. I mean, I didn't do great. I'm kind of in dead last now. Chris got a 2-game lead up on me, but I think I was like 10-4, I think, so which is still pretty respectable. But you and Chris are just on fire. So hopefully there's not too many games to pick from, but I do see some interesting matchups that Chris picked that I'm leaning towards a different guy. So I'm not obviously not gonna be able to make up the 5 games to you in week 7, but I might be able to make up the 2 games to Chris right now. So before we do that, Roman, how would you go through the news and notes? There's a lot of injuries, and I really like the final note of the bike apocalypse that we're dealing with this week.
Yeah, for sure. But you'll start with injuries. A lot of them this week. First of all, Baker Mayfield. He was seen after the game wearing a left shoulder sling, but apparently he thinks he's good to go, and that's good to hear because they're playing on Thursday Night Football this week. So, quick turnaround for him. But unfortunately, they did lose some other pieces in the backfield for this game. Kareem Hunt with a calf injury. He's on the IR, so he'll miss at least 3 games max. Chubb, he was doing, I think, another calf injury. He's just out for this week. I mean, he hasn't gotten put on the IR yet, so they'll be without both of them this week. So that'll be huge losses for them in the backfield. Another quarterback, Dak Prescott, a calf injury. Apparently, he got that while celebrating at the end of the game versus the Patriots and that walk-off touchdown. So who knows how serious that is, but I expect him to go, but you just can't be doing that. Antonio Gibson still dealing with the shin injury. Didn't look great on Sunday against the Chiefs. McKissick got a lot of that work. I kind of expect it to lean in his direction this week. I don't really know if Gibson will play. He hasn't said he wasn't going to play yet, but it's just not looking good for him, even if he is on the field. So just be wary of that. Alex Collins, who was supposed to be Chris Carson's replacement, while he was in the IR, he picked up a hip injury during the game versus the Steelers. So that's not great to hear. But for the Seahawks, Rashad Penny is coming off the IR, so definitely a good time to get a running back back in that backfield. So we'll see if Collins plays. He could very well play, but they also have Penny and DJ Dallas as insurance policies as well, who DJ Dallas did pretty well in that game too. Darius Toney picked up an ankle injury really quickly into that game last week, so he did not finish the game, but we'll see if he plays this week. Latin Murray, another ankle injury. They do have Lev Bell and Devontae Freeman, so they've both been holding down the fort, so it's not too bad for the Ravens backfield. They've been just picking up injuries all over the place, so this is just another one onto that pile. Paris Campbell had a huge touchdown pass from Carson Wentz in the game against Houston, but picked up a foot injury along the way, so we'll see. T.Y. Hilton did return from IR, so at least that makes up for that loss if he's out for an extended period of time. Terrace Marshall Jr. just picked up a concussion for the Panthers, so we'll see how he's doing. He wasn't really too much involved, but he's a rookie that many people are excited about, so we'll keep monitoring that. And then Taylor Lewan picked up a bad concussion on Monday Night Football. He was carried out on a stretcher. All his extremities they're moving though, so we'll see how he does this week. I doubt he plays just because of concussion protocol, but it did look pretty scary at first. But he should be moving around soon. That was it for injuries, but we did have a trade actually. Eagles traded tight end Zach Ertz to the Cardinals for cornerback Tay Gowan in the 2022 fifth. Ertz played on that Thursday night game against the Bucs, had a touchdown, and that was, I guess, his send-off from the Eagles, who goes to the Cardinals and now instantly going to be involved in that offense. I mean, he doesn't have to sit behind anyone. He'll be the guy that the Cardinals lost Max Williams, so Ertz should get a lot of that work in a good offense as well. So pretty exciting move for him in fantasy. Definitely pick him up if he's still on waivers. But Ertz definitely rejuvenated for this season, I guess you could say. And then obviously the big story for this week at least, by apocalypse. 6 teams on bye. I don't think that's ever happened before. This might just be because of the extended week, where they have extra teams on bye now. But the teams that are on bye now are actually pretty brutal for fantasy owners. You got Buffalo, Dallas, the Chargers, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. Those are all great fantasy options. Great players
Even
are not
Minnesota,
playing
yeah.
this week. Yeah, and then Jacksonville, but that's just James Robinson, and that's it. But a lot of great players on bye this week. It's gonna be tough to get a lap together if a lot of those guys are on bye, but we'll do our best giving you some guys to start this week in the later segment. But is there anything you have to add to the news notes, Drew? A lot to talk about.
Not too much. I'll just kind of briefly give my thoughts on each bullet point real quick. So I think the injuries, the Dak thing kind of stands out for bad reasons because I have Dak on my fantasy team, and when I saw he got banged up, I was like, I just watched the game. What's going on? But yeah, I mean, that play to CD Lamb, the walk off was a really great play, but then you can't injure yourself right afterwards. So hopefully he's okay. Like you said, they are on a bye this week, so he should be ready to go by week 8. But still not great for a Dallas team that looks. I've seen some Super Bowl chatter as them as a potential contender this year. They've looked good, but I mean, New England isn't. They're a good team, but they're not. They're probably not making the playoffs this year. So the fact they had to go to overtime against them isn't great. But hey, they have looked really good so far. And then the other injury is the Kareem Hunt. Adding to the Nick Chubb injury that the Browns already have. Baker's banged up. He's also on that list. Injuries have really just hurt the Browns a lot here in recent weeks. So hopefully these guys get back. OBJ too. He's questionable for Thursday Night Football with his shoulder thing. Landry's already on the IR. So yeah, Cleveland, they looked really really good to start the year, but they had a good matchup here this week against Denver, but. If they want to be the Super Bowl contender that they look like in Week 1 against the Chiefs, they're going to have to get these guys back. So that's a little concerning. The Zach Ertz trade, I love that. They gave up basically nothing, which is awesome. I mean, 6th-round pick is a 6th-round pick, so that whoever the Eagles end up taking with that pick, it's probably going to get cut or not going to play at all, at least next year. So the Cardinals are probably one of if not the best team in the league right now. So the fact they were able to really shore up their tight end spot, they were used last year. They didn't use it as much with Dan Arnold, but this year they've been using it a lot with Max Williams before he got banged up. So now Zach Ertz, who I know he looked washed there in Philadelphia, but I mean, I know he had some personal issues going on. I don't think he really wanted to be there anymore. All sorts of different things, and he's not too far removed from being a really good player in the NFL. So, is he going to be like Travis Kelce, like he used to be? I mean, it used to be Ertz and Kelce were like the 2 top tight ends in the league. I don't think he's that Zach Ertz anymore, but I think he very well could be we could see like a Rob Gronkowski like renaissance for Zach Ertz with Arizona, like Gronk, who was kind of washed there his final years in New England, and then he's been pretty good for Tampa Bay aside from the injuries these last couple of years. So, yeah, and like you said, Ertz definitely a must add. And then the bipocalypse is insane, especially for fantasy owners. I am benefiting from it. I mean, like I said, I do have Dak and CD not playing this week, which sucks. But the guy I'm playing basically has the entire Buffalo offense. So Dawson Knox, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and I believe he has their kicker. So
Well,
really,
and,
really good for me.
and Dawson Knox obviously got hurt too.
Yeah, that
I
too
believe
hurt
it
his
was like
hand.
a hand injury. So I
Yep.
mean, this is a good week on bye for him, but we'll see how he does
Yeah.
moving forward. But yeah, good, definitely good for you to have all those
Yeah.
guys on bye.
Yeah, hopefully he comes back, because he has been having a really breakout season so far. And I also have James Robinson too, which kind of sucks, because I got to start stupid Miles Gaskin. But we won't get into that. We already talked about it enough. Pre-show, I don't need to talk about it on air. But yeah, I think the news and notes. Great job there doing it, filling in for Chris. So we'll hop in now
Thank
to
you.
the picks picks of the week. Okay, so first matchup we already kind of talked about a little bit. The Browns and the Broncos. Both teams, as you mentioned, the Browns coming in with an injury. They got blown out by the Cardinals last week. Not a lot of positive momentum coming from them. And the Broncos also lost to divisional foe, the Las Vegas Raiders. So 2 teams in must-win scenarios here, I would say, especially the Broncos. Everybody, I said it. I said it on the show. Everybody was like, Broncos, yeah, Super Bowl, playoffs, and now they've dropped 3 or 4 in a row. So, so I don't like them that much. I'll start us off here for the first one. I'm going Browns. As we mentioned, they already have those injuries, but the Broncos also have some injuries. And I mean, Cortland Sutton, shout out to him. He's looked really good the last few weeks. I think this could be a closer game than we're expecting, especially with all the Cleveland guys that won't be playing, or at least will be playing in a limited capacity. I think it might be a solid Thursday night game, but I think overall Cleveland finds a way to win, and it looks like you agree.
Yeah, I do. I just think Cleveland's defense is going to be too dominant, regardless of what their offense does. I mean, even without Chubb and Hunt, I mean, uh, Dearness Johnson, he showed some stuff last season when and they were in the same situation when Chubb was missing a few games, and he stepped in, had a good game against Dallas. So I think he's more than capable of winning the backfield. Baker, he just has to get his stuff together. I mean, regardless of OBJ not being there, regardless of Landry not being there, who is trending to return, by the way, soon. Even Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's been having a good couple games, at a Hail Mary as well,
Yeah.
2 touchdowns total. So he's becoming a security blanket for Baker Mayfield. So it's good to see. But I think even if the offense doesn't play their best, I just think their defense is going to be way too dominant for Dallas to overcome, or for Denver to overcome.
I 100% agree there. But I do think it's gonna be like you said. I think it's gonna be a relatively close game. Even though I don't know, I was gonna say this isn't a sexy matchup. But these are two teams that get a lot of media coverage, so maybe it is a sexier matchup than some of the last few Thursday night games. I guess last week was Tampa, but Philadelphia. That's a pretty good one. But anyway, we'll hop in now to Cincinnati, Baltimore. Two teams coming out of from blowout wins in Week 6. The Ravens a little more impressive than the Bengals, I must say. Sorry, Roman, I know you were there, but the Lions got plowed by the Bengals. They're obviously not a great team, but the Ravens destroyed the Chargers, who were coming off some really impressive victories their last few weeks. And I know I picked the Chargers. I believe you picked the Chargers as well. So the fact that Ravens went in there and won by, I think, 28 points, I think it was 34-6. So very impressive by them. But the Bengals are also a really good team. So I'm interested, you can start us off here. Obviously, Chris went with the Ravens. Who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, Baltimore had a very impressive win. Surprised me for sure. I thought it was going to be a high scoring game, which I guess it was for Baltimore. But the Chargers just couldn't keep up. I mean, I don't think Lamar or Herbert didn't have any impressive days by any stretch of the imagination, but it just was pretty much one side the entire time. And obviously, same for the Bengals, who I will say, not to be salty just because the Lions lost, they looked pretty slow to start the game too. I mean, it didn't take until the second half for them to really get going, push the ball down the field to chase a little bit more, run the ball a lot more effectively. They started off pretty slow, but they ended up coming into their own later on. I do expect this to be a good game as well, but I do like Baltimore in this game for obvious reasons. I think Lamar is going to have a much better performance than he did last week.
Yeah, I'm just having fun at this point. I'm in last. I just want to pick some teams that I'd like to win. So I'm going Cincinnati. Give me Cincinnati. I think this is going to be a really good game. There's not a ton of great games on the slate. I think this might be the best game of the week. And I think it's going to be a good matchup. I think the Bengals, this could be a statement win for them. They're kind of on that fringe right now of, are they a playoff team? Are they not a playoff team? And Baltimore, they've been super inconsistent this year. They play really well some games, obviously like last week, but then I mean, I know they beat Indianapolis, but they almost lost to them. They probably should have lost that game if Indianapolis didn't implode. They obviously lost to Las Vegas in week 1. I don't know. It seems like they're very inconsistent. They should have won. They should have lost to Detroit if it wasn't for Justin Tucker's kick. That feels like 10 years ago. I almost forgot about that. So yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just banking on a letdown game by the Ravens and the Bengals come out and yeah, get a victory. But I think it's gonna be a close game regardless. This is probably a loss for me, but you gotta go off the board here at least once. And I don't really see any other games that I'm gonna go super off the board with. So give me Cincinnati. All right, next up we've got the Green Bay Packers versus the Washington Football Team. The Chiefs destroyed Washington last week, and then Jackson Mahomes destroyed Sean Taylor's number in the end zone, and then had to issue a public apology about that. I don't know what's with Jackson Mahomes. I don't like him. I think he's a jerk. I think he's a tool, and I think that just disgraceful action kind of showed that. But anyway, gotta do everything you gotta do for the TikTok, I guess. Whatever, Jackson. So anyway, the Chiefs won, beat the football team, and then the Packers won by I believe 10 points against the Bears. Not a super convincing victory for them, but still a victory nonetheless. Washington has probably been one of the most disappointing teams so far this year, and I think the disappointment continues here into Week 7. Give me the Packers. I think yeah, I mean, the Washington defense has not been great. I think they might kind of run into the same issues that they did last year against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs and Packers, at least so far this year, are very similar teams. So I think the Packers are going to win by probably 2-3 touchdowns, like the Chiefs beat Washington last week. So pretty easy pick for me.
Yeah, I mean, Washington, to their credit, they did have Kansas City kind of on the ropes. I'm glad we're going to talk about the Chiefs next and their matchup. But Washington, I mean, they could have had a chance to win that game. They just fell flat that last quarter and a half. Had a couple turnovers off Mahomes, so it was good to see on their end.
Yeah.
Green Bay debuting their new throwback unis this week, the all green and yellow stripes. So I'm kind of a fan of that. And in fact, check me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure David Bakhtiari is like a week away or might be returning this week. He's definitely really close to returning. So that's huge for them as well. Um, Obviously, Aaron Rodgers hit the moment of the game screaming, "I own you" to the Bears fans. That was pretty good to see. Um, and I'm gonna take him in this game too. I think it'll be a pretty one-sided game too.
Yeah, which is, I mean, like I said, kind of unfortunate because I feel like Washington, we had some high hopes for them, and I mean, I think Dallas is running away with that division now pretty easily. It's
Mhm.
safe to say. Um, okay, so next up we mentioned them a lot that last scoring update with the Chiefs taking on the Titans. The Chiefs, obviously, as I just said 6,000 times, destroyed Washington, and then Tennessee had I would say an upset win last night. We're recording this on Tuesday night, so last night Monday Night Football. They didn't destroy. They beat the Bills. It was a pretty close game. They only won by 3 points, but kind of a statement win for the Titans. Speaking of, I talked about Baltimore being up and down. Tennessee's been even more up and down than they've been. I mean, they lose to the Jets, and then they are able to beat a AFC Championship, possible Super Bowl contender in the Bills. So they're hard to tell how good this team actually is. And I think it's just weird because I think if we get the team they played against, we get the team that played on Monday night against the Chiefs. I think or against the Bills. I think they can easily beat the Chiefs. However, if they play like they did against the Jets not too long ago, they're probably going to get plowed by the Chiefs. So it's hard to tell who's going to win this game. But Roman, who do you like? Obviously, Chris likes the Chiefs here, but who are you taking?
Yeah, this is going to be a very competitive game, and obviously the Titans were taking on the Bills last week, who had the number one rushing defense, and Derrick Henry made them look silly all over the game. So I think Derrick Henry is going to do Derrick Henry things. AJ Brown got into the game; he was questionable last minute on the injury report with an illness, but he did play and he did look pretty good. So it's good to see him back in the field, as well as Julio, who I think picked up an injury as well along the way in
Yeah.
that
Yep.
game. But I think he'll be fine regardless. Though they have their wide receivers back, so that's very important for them. Tannehill, I think he needs to look a little better. He hasn't been great, or what we've seen him before in the past. And then like the Chiefs, we kind of already mentioned, I wouldn't classify them as a Super Bowl contender just yet. I mean, they still have a long way to go, especially in their own division. I'm taking the Titans in this game. I think Derrick Henry can do the same thing he did to Buffalo. I think the offense can slow the game down, and I think they're going to come out winning this game.
Man, I kind of. If you would have went Chiefs, I definitely was going Titans. But since you went Titans, I might leave you out on an island here, Roman. I think that's what I'm going to do. Sorry to be that cutthroat, but we got to make up some ground some way. I know I said earlier that the Bengals Ravens game was the game of the week. This might be the game of the week as well. I think it's a really solid game. I think it's going to be very close. I think Derrick Henry is going to eat. But also that Titans defense is not great. So I think the Chiefs are also gonna. I think it's gonna be a very high scoring affair. I think it's gonna be a really really fun game. So yeah, but give me the Chiefs just to maybe make up some ground for you.
Yeah, I'll also add that, to I guess the favor of the Chiefs. I mean, the Tennessee backfield or secondary did not look great at all. They were plagued with injuries the entire
Yep.
way. Caleb Farley went down. The backup after that went down. I mean, they're just absolutely plagued of injuries in the secondary. So that could be the Chiefs' saving grace if they get Hill and Kelsey more involved. But
Yeah,
um, if that doesn't go to plan, I think Tennessee can still come out winning. But I agree with you. This will be probably the game of the week for me.
yeah, it's way better than the two primetime games at night, which we'll get to here in a second. And but yeah, I guess speaking of crappy matchups, we got the Falcons and the Dolphins. The Dolphins coming off just another just embarrassing loss in London to the Jacksonville Jaguars, leaving the Lions. Not to keep being a homer, but leaving the Lions is the only winless team in the NFL still. But yeah, the Dolphins got embarrassed, lost to Jacksonville on a game-winning field goal. And the Falcons are coming out of the bye. Calvin Ridley's back, so they look like a very good team. I know I went the Dolphins last week, and I think both of you guys went with the Jags. So because of that reason, I'm going to go with the Falcons. I think I've been a little bit higher on the Falcons than everybody else, especially Chris. I'm semi surprised he picked them, but Miami, it's probably more so about how bad Miami's been. Again, super disappointing team, similar to Washington. I feel like Washington and Miami were the two like darlings of the 2020 season, the Cinderella stories. Washington obviously won the division. Miami almost made the playoffs. Both teams were expected to be tanking, and it looks like we were right, just maybe 1 year too late, because it looks like it's going to be tank city for both these teams unless things turn around. But yeah, if they lose to Atlanta, it's another not great team. It might be time to just bench your guys, make some trades, and tank for a high draft pick next year, which sucks because Miami, again, had a lot of high hopes going into the season.
Yeah, for Atlanta, they had their bye week at the right time just because Calvin Ridley, they didn't have him in London, so at least everything he's dealing with is good to go. Any injuries they had will be fine. Uh, I think that'll be a very competitive game. Miami, though, we didn't do an AFC East division preview, but I think I've already said it before. I wasn't very high on Miami anyway, so the fact that they're one and four, 1-5 doesn't really shock me. But I think it'll be a very competitive game. Tua actually looked pretty good his first game off the IR. Him and Waddle already have that great connection.
Yeah, that was
Um,
impressive to see. That was
yeah,
impressive.
so that didn't miss anything there. So I think it'll be a very competitive game. Two teams not obviously expected to do much this year at this point, anyways. But I'm gonna go with Miami. I think they can continue that connection.
Wow.
And I think too, if he doesn't have that turnover or if he keeps the ball not in the defensive hands, I think this could be a game they can win.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pick. I'm glad you mentioned that Tua Waddle connection. That was Waddle's breakout game. It's
Mhm.
kind of funny because Kyle Pitts, highly touted rookie, had his breakout game in London, and then Jalen Waddle had his breakout game in London a week later. That's kind of cool. But yeah, I very possible Miami wins this game. But I don't know. I just like Atlanta a little bit better. Cordell Patterson, Matt Ryan,
Mhm.
obviously Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts. I mean, I think he had that monster week. Then he gets a bye week to prepare. Miami's not a great team, as we've said, so I think he could have another big game this week. So, but yeah, I think it'll be a close game overall. Yeah, and to kind of go off also your division preview point, I think I also had Miami third, because I like New England a little bit better, and Buffalo obviously is a Super Bowl contender. So,
Mhm.
um, so we'll stick in the AFC. So for this next matchup between the Pats and the Jets, um, I so I need to do any analysis for this one. The Patriots coming off a devastating loss to the Cowboys. Um, they felt like they lost that game and then won that game like 10,000 times, but narrowly lost. And the Jets are the Jets, coming off the bye. So I don't really need to say anything more than that. So I know who I'm picking, but you said maybe this isn't an easy pick. So you go first.
Well, the last time these two teams played, I picked the Jets, and that did not work clearly. Mac Jones, though, he has a set of testicles on him. We'll just say that. But I think the Patriots are a good team. I think they'll be fine. Nothing too dangerous here. For the Jets, though, I think at least Elijah Moore should be back this week, so he should be fine. I think he needed to get that connection with Zach Wilson, similarly to Waddle and Tua. So I think this game could be close, but I'm not going to make any bold predictions for this one. Just pick the Patriots.
I I don't know. I feel like I know the first time they played it was kind of close. I think this might be a blowout. The Pats, I mean, they've just had schedule bad luck. I mean, they looked if they played like they did against Tampa Bay, against Dallas. I mean, they've been playing some really good teams lately, and they're due for an easy matchup here against the Jets. So this is a gimme game. This is a get right game for the Pats. And I think finally their record might reflect a little bit more better how they've been playing all year, because I think they're what, like 2-4, I think, off the top of my head.
The
Um,
Patriots? Yeah.
yeah, 2-4.
Yep.
So not obviously not a great record, but if you look at some of their losses, namely the Dallas and Tampa Bay loss, I think they're a lot better than their record shows, and I think this game will get them a little closer to 500. Playoffs are still going to be hard to come by for the Pats, but I think they're definitely trending in the right direction. The future looks bright. Like you said, Mac Jones does in fact have a pair of testicles on him. That 75-yard, so that was just insane. I mean, Diggs, with the interception, obviously he's pretty happy, pretty excited, and then just Kendrick Bourne just goes a little burns him, and then Jones. I didn't know Jones could throw that far. That was insane. But yeah, so good win or not good moral victory there for the Pats, which I think I saw on Twitter their new nickname is the team of moral victories. It feels like every week they get a moral victory. So maybe hopefully those moral victories will turn into some real victories here against the Jets. But next up, this game also does not excite me at all. The Panthers, the Giants. I love the Panthers, obviously. I love Sam Darnold, but without CMC, they are kind of in that same bucket with the Broncos. It felt like after the first 3 weeks of the season, we were all like, Broncos, Panthers, Super Bowl, here we come. And they've both just fallen on their fallen on their face a little bit. So that's not been great. The Giants also are not a great team, though, coming off an absolute blowout by the Los Angeles Rams. So I I think I'm going Panthers here because I think Minnesota is a decent football team. I picked them to beat the Panthers last week, and they didn't get embarrassed by any means. It was still, I think it was like a one-score game. And the Giants, I think, are not a good football team. Plain and simple. I think Tony's also hurt now, but Sterling Shepard's back. He had a really nice game last week. So maybe it'll be. I think they'll keep it close. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think the Panthers will find a way to win and hopefully keep their playoff hopes and their wild card hopes alive. And I see you agree.
Yeah, first of all, it's a huge fall from grace for the Panthers, who we thought had high hopes. They surprised me at least. They were third in my division prediction, but you and Chris are high on them. Thought they were gonna make the playoffs. It's still possible, but I think that the game to get back on the climb starts here against the Giants. So if they can win this game, they can at least have some momentum for the next couple of games and then get back on track to where they used to be. But Giants, they're just too depleted with injuries right now for me to pick them, although it could be very close.
Yeah, I mean their schedule also got a lot harder. Very similar to I believe the Broncos. They played the Cowboys. Like I said, they played the Rams last week, or they played the Vikings. Excuse me. So their schedule got a lot harder, which is a big reason why. Same thing with like the Broncos. Who didn't they play the Texans and the Jags like the first 3 weeks? And they played some other crap team. The Giants. They played the Giants. So yeah. Um, but again, I think their schedule luck kind of comes back here because the Giants are not a good football team. So. Um, Playoffs still very much in play, I think, for this team, but they're going to need CMC back as well. Just like Chris needs CMC to keep his fantasy playoff hopes alive, the Panthers also need CMC. Next up, we have a frisky matchup between the Eagles and the Raiders. The Eagles kept it close. They lost respectably to Tampa Bay last week on Thursday Night Football. And then the Raiders surprised me. They won last week against the Broncos. I think, did I pick the Broncos?
No, you picked the
I
Raiders.
picked the Raiders. Okay, for some reason I thought I picked the Broncos. I've been hating them all year, and I thought I picked them for some reason. But that's a good win though. They kind of won pretty convincingly, won by 10 points. And Denver scored. Correct me if I'm wrong. Denver scored a little bit late, so it was even a little more of a dominant victory than the final score looked. So I was not expecting that because of the John Gruden situation fiasco. But yeah, obviously Chris doesn't think that'll hinder them again against a solid but not great Philadelphia team. So who do you like though in this matchup, Roman?
Yeah, I mean, I picked Vegas last week. I expected, or at least predicted, when you get a new interim coach, the team likes to come out hard in their first game, go in for the interim coach. So that could very well happen again. Philadelphia is not a slouch, though. One thing to note, though, they are getting Lane Johnson back. He was out the past couple weeks for some personal issues, I believe, but he is back with the team. So if he plays this week, that's going to be a huge addition back in the offensive line for him, especially when you're going against Max Crosby on that defensive line. It's going to be tough. Um, I'm finding myself in another position where Chris loves the Eagles, but he picked against them, so this could be my time to take advantage of it. And I think I will. I'm going to take the Philadelphia, but I think obviously the fans called for the Nick Sirianni to run the ball a lot more. Miles Sanders and if it does, if Sanders gets more involved, I think this could be a game Philadelphia can win.
Man, you're putting me in a difficult spot here because I kind of want to go Philly, but I feel like the Raiders. I think Denver's a better team than Philly. The Raiders were able to find way to win that game. And maybe they get some more confidence going here. It seems like they're always the team of September and October. They're always really good, and then they just fall on their face and miss the playoffs. At least that's how it was with Gruden. Maybe it'll be different this year, but I think I'm going to go with the Raiders. But I do think it's going to be a very close game. This could be a very easy game for you to make up a game on. Extend your lead,
Go on.
excuse me, on both Chris and I. But I'm going with the Raiders. I liked what I saw last week. But Philadelphia again is no slouch, and then the Lane Johnson addition is very important for them against the Raiders' defensive line. This next game, this is the game of the week for Lions fans. Obviously, Matthew Stafford quoted like yesterday of saying it's just another game, just another team. He doesn't really care. This is in the 4 o'clock window. revenge game for Jared Goff, I guess, quote unquote, revenge game for Matthew Stafford. This might be the most highly touted blowout game of the year. I mean, I really want to pick the Lions, but I've already picked them twice this year, and they've already made me look silly. So I'm going Rams, which makes me feel really bad because I really like the Lions could go 1-16 as long as this is the one win, just so Matthew Stafford can shut his stupid face, and on the national media can just shove it. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of all this Lions slander, and you're a way bigger Lions fan than I am. Um, Even though, but I still like the team and all this, Collinsworth and all the national media. Oh, Matthew Stafford, he's on the actual football team now. Blah blah blah. I'm done with that. So if they just win this game, I'll be so happy. This will be our Super Bowl. It seems like every year we beat a team that we're not supposed to beat. Shout out like when we beat the Patriots a couple years ago on Sunday Night Football. So hopefully that'll happen this year. But obviously, I'm going with the Rams. I think this could be a very, very embarrassing loss, and the talking heads will just continue more about how Stafford's finally on a real football team, which is not entirely inaccurate, I guess.
Yeah, this game I think could have had primetime potential just because of the storyline, the narrative between the two teams. But personally, I'm glad it's not for the reasons that you indicated. This could very well be a blowout. I am excited. I'm not excited for this game. It's a mix of emotions,
Yeah,
honestly. Uh, like you mentioned, though, this could be a game that same old Lions just come out and win. Surprisingly, I bold take. I think Stafford might have a couple of turnovers, so that's at least my prediction for this game. However, I think the Rams' offense has just been on a roll. For Goff, at least, I hope he doesn't look
yeah,
as bad as it did last week. At least show some sort of competence against your former team. However, this could be another
yeah,
embarrassing performance by him. I mean, Dan Campbell was calling out him in the press conference the other day, so the whole team just needs to be better. Their game against Cincy was the worst game of the season by far. They're much more competitive than that, despite the 0-6 record. But as long as it's somewhat close, and I just hope Goff has a good game, not to be
yeah.
embarrassed, and so does Stafford too.
That's what I want more. I want Goff to just play well, because he's not a good quarterback. I think we saw that last week. He's probably not the quarterback of the future. As much as I want to keep saying that, because I do like him, he's just not. He's not great. But I mean, if he looks at this, man, like this could be the last great game that he has in his career. I mean, he could be. I mean, let's be honest. After this contract stuff, he might be a career backup. This is his time to go out there and just throw it and just have the game of his life. He's obviously his number one pick for a reason. Again, if we can go 1-16, as long as this is the one game we win, I'll be very happy. And I will say, like, why isn't this in the prime time slot? Like San Francisco, Indianapolis, is that got any more juice than Rams Lions? I mean, give me a break, NBC. Okay, now we got Houston, Arizona. I mean,
Yeah, right,
do
right.
we even need to talk about this? I mean, shout out to Houston for not being complete trash, I guess. But yeah, they're on fire. They're the best team in the league, and the Texans they played well to start the year. Very valiant efforts, but they got plowed by Indianapolis last week, which is not a Indianapolis is not a great team. They might make the playoffs, maybe, and they just lost to them. And the Cardinals, I mean, they're a Super Bowl contender, so easy pick here.
Yeah, and well, for Houston, I guess the only thing worth noting is that I think Tyrod Taylor might be back this game, so I guess that's better than Davis Mills, who hasn't been great the past few
Yeah.
weeks. And obviously, this is a revenge game for JJ Watt. I'm not sure if Hopkins already had a game against them, but just another revenge game for him too. So just both of them probably going to go off on their respective rights. So I do like Arizona quite a bit in this game.
Yeah, and I feel kind of good for Tyrod Taylor because it seems like every year it's the same thing. He gets hurt, the rookie quarterback comes in, lights the world on fire, and I guess that fortunately for him that didn't happen for Davis Mills. So now he gets to come back, and he actually looked pretty good there to start the year. The best Tyrod Taylor's looked in forever.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
um, who knows? Maybe the Lions will beat the Rams and the Texans will beat the Cardinals, and the world will be on fire. Who knows? All right, next up we got the Bears and the Buccaneers. This is a rematch of the classic game from last year. I believe it was Thursday night when Tom Brady
yeah.
forgot what down it was. But the Bears lost to the Packers last week. Talking about fraudulent teams, I think the Bears are one of those teams. I think the record opposite of the Patriots. I don't know their record offhand, the Bears, but I think it's what 4-3, not 4-3. I think they might be 3-3. I don't think they're that good of a team. So I think this could be a not a great game. I think the Bucks might take care of business here, even though they haven't looked great the last couple weeks. So I'm going Tampa as well, and I see you already put them in there.
Yeah, Chicago's 3-3, but I think Tampa's just the better team. Not really sure where Gronk's at in terms of his progression getting back to the field, but I don't think it'll really matter. AB, Evans, Godwin, they're going to do their thing. Leonard Fournette's been going off the past couple weeks too, so this really shouldn't be a contest.
Yeah, I yeah, like I said, I think the Bears. I think on paper the Bears are a worse team. I know I keep talking about the Patriots. I think they're a worse team than the Patriots. But their record, it just looks a little bit better than that. I know Chris kind of likes the Bears,
Oh yeah.
but obviously he doesn't like them enough to pick him here against Tampa. And Justin Fields too. He needs to look better. A Rod
Yeah.
needs to look better. Their whole team needs to look better. I think they have a talented roster. The guys just haven't been showing up so far.
Hmm.
And as much as I hate to admit this, Roman, I think the Penny. I'll say this on air. I think the Penny Sewell pick might have been the right pick instead of Justin Fields. At least so far. At least so far. All right, next up we have the Colts and the Niners. The Niners, I mean, they've just had an up and down year. They had to come out of the bye. Maybe it was just the best time for the bye, get right. But the Colts are coming in. I mean, they like I said at the top, they should have beat Baltimore 2 weeks ago. They destroyed Houston last week. They might be kind of getting things rolling here at the right time. I feel like I've started off the last couple. So you can start off this one if you'd like, because I have a interesting take for the last game as well. So, but I'll let you get started here. Who do you like between the Indy and the San Francisco game?
Yeah, well, for San Francisco, their bye came at a good time. I mean, Jimmy G is available for them, but I think they should start Lance. We'll see who they end up starting in this game. Obviously, Kittle's still in the IR. Ayuk needs to get more involved. The defense, they've been solid, but they can be better. At Indianapolis, they actually have some sneaky momentum coming into this game. They could have won against the Ravens, you're right. They dominated Houston last week. This week is weird for me because I've been going on an island in every game for most games I'm splitting on. And that might happen again here. I'm taking Indianapolis. I think they can win this game for sure, especially for a San Francisco team that might come out flat depending on who their quarterback is.
Yeah, no, you're not going to be on island this one. I'm going to go with the Colts for other reasons you mentioned. I feel like I picked the Niners in like every game this year, and they've let me down every time, which means they're probably going to win this game. But yeah, I mean, the bye was at the right time for the Niners, but they still aren't super healthy. Trey Lance is also banged up as well. Still, he might not even be available. So, um, we might see C.J. Beathard back out there, whoever their third string guy is still. Um, which I know is what we all want to see. But obviously, the Niners got a lot of talent. Even though Kittle's hurt, Debo Samuel's been having a monster year so far. They'll have Elijah Mitchell back, fully healthy, who I think,
Hmm.
at least right now, I think is better than Trey Sermon. I think it's safe to say that. That he's had the bye week really helped him get over his injury. I don't even know if he has a designation at all this week in practice. So I think it'll be a really close game. I know I was kind of crapping on this game earlier, but it's just not two teams that aren't like super sexy at the moment, at least. But the Colts, like you said, coming in with some sneaky momentum. This could be a statement win after they were semi-embarrassed 2 weeks ago on prime time when they choked against the Ravens. So could be a bet comeback game. Now we've got the Saints and the Seahawks, and I kind of lied. I don't have a hot take because I kind of forgot that Geno Smith is still the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. So I am also going with the New Orleans Saints, even though the Seahawks did put up a valiant effort last night on Monday Night Football against the Steelers, or wait, 2 nights ago, excuse me, on Sunday Night Football against the Steelers. I got my primetime games mixed up. But yeah, I think the Saints also coming out of the bye. Marquez Callaway has looked better the last right before the bye. Kamara's obviously a beast. Winston's looked up and down, but I think against the Seattle defense, the Saints will be able to find a way to win the game. So, um, yeah, I don't have a hot take for this game. Sorry if anybody was holding their breath for my hot take.
Yeah, Metcalf and Lockett didn't do as good as I thought they were. I mean, that's kind of expected with Geno Smith. We'll see if they somehow increase in volume and usage, but we'll have to see. Obviously, we already mentioned Carson, Collins, that situation in the backfield. There'll probably be a two-man show between Penny and Dallas, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, there's rumors that they reach out to Cam Newton, so we'll see if they sign him in the next couple weeks. That'll be a huge note for them. Maybe get their season back on track. So we'll see if that comes into fruition. But this game, I don't think they're going to win this game. I think New Orleans, for all the reasons you mentioned, should win this one. I'm looking forward to this game though because these two teams have normally been pretty good contenders in the past.
Yeah, and also Cam Newton would look pretty sweet in a Seahawks jersey too. That would be
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool to see. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean the Seahawks and Niners. I mean the two. It's tough because they're in really tough divisions, and injuries have not obviously been in their favor. And I mean they're in serious danger of not making the playoffs this year, which is really crazy to think. But I think we all were collectively kind of low on the Seahawks coming into the year. But so yeah, so that's it for the picks for this week. I mean, there's not a ton of great games. There's obviously a lot of good teams on bye, but there's some interesting games. It's not going to be a completely wash of a week. I think obviously like we said, the Bengals, Ravens, Chiefs, Titans. For personal reasons, the Lions, Rams game all kind of stand out. And I even think the Niners, Colts game might be a little bit sneaky good as well. But we'll hop in now to the fantasy picks. I know you have Chris's picks, so you can say those really quick and then jump into your first pick.
Yeah, so the first guy for Chris has is Dearness Johnson, running back for Cleveland. We already talked about him earlier. He'll be the RB1 for them going into the Thursday night matchup. I think it's a risky play just because it's on a Thursday night. If you're dealing with injury, definitely play him. Or if you think someone's banged up, you can definitely play him. I think there's just risk playing Thursday night players in general.
Yep.
So I think that's something just to monitor. If you have to start him, definitely go for it. And he's already proven he can be a guy there. So you can start him if you want to. And then Damian Harris was the other guy. I have no problem with that either, especially against the Jets. I know Stevenson has become a hot waiver wire guy, so we'll see how that impacts Harris. But I think anyone on that Patriots team can be relevant against the Jets.
Yeah, I was gonna pick Damian Harris too, until I saw he picked him, and I'm happy he did because I feel like I pick Damian Harris like every freaking week. So I'm happy he picked him. I really like that pick. And then obviously with all the Browns injuries, someone's got to run the ball there, so it's good for Johns. But I do agree it's tough to play guys Thursday night. That's why I'm not playing Odell this week because he's banged up, and I don't want to have that kind of spot in my Thursday night lineup. But overall, good picks there by Chris, I think. So you can start though. Who's your first fantasy pick?
Yeah, so I'm taking another running back, Darrell Williams for the Chiefs. He had a great week last week. The game script pretty much helped him quite a bit. This could be a high shooting scoring matchup against Tennessee, so I expect him to be used quite a bit as well. Um, I really got nothing really much to add. Darrell Williams, I think definitely was a must start. I think last week for Clyde owners at least, if you had him, I started them even though I'm not a Clyde owner and I reap the benefits of it. So I'm definitely starting him again this week.
Yeah, and I think he's even better. He may be better than Clyde. I mean, Clyde was kind of putting it together there. I'm just biased against him because I had him and he
Yeah.
choked, and then I traded him, and then he got really good. So hopefully he comes back soon. But uh, yeah, I do like that pick quite a bit. Um, I'll do my next pick here. I mean, we don't need to do the snake. We can just go back and forth if that works. So my next pick, though, my first pick, excuse me, is going to be Allen Robinson. This is a guy who's had a super disappointing year so far. I think his highest point total in PPR at least was 10.4. He's had
Yikes.
9.3 twice. But yeah, he's been super disappointing. I know a lot of people drafted him as a wide receiver one for their team. Sometimes wide receiver two as well. But I mean, I got him as like a throw in last week in a trade, and people are benching him. He's not having a great year, obviously, but he gets the targets. He gets 7 to 8 targets most every week, and I think he just needs to find the end zone. And I think he's going to have that opportunity this week against a Buccaneers defense that's not, at least a Buccaneers secondary that's not great. I do think the Bears are going to be down in this game, so they're going to have to throw the ball. And I think A-Rob finally finds a way to find the end zone and have a at least productive fantasy game. If you're a person that's trying to like kind of trade low for him, I think he's a great buy low candidate. And you can just throw him in as your flex or your wide receiver too, especially, and you might have to play him anyway because of all the buys. I think you could play him with some semi confidence because of the juicy matchup this week. And for people who are wondering, Buccaneers are 28th against fantasy wide receivers, so at least in PPR. So not great there. So hopefully this is a get right game for Allen Robinson.
Yeah, people are just begging to give Allen Robinson away these days in fantasy. He has not looked good at all. I have him in my dynasty roster, and I'm just a wait. I'll believe it when I see it type of attitude on him. Obviously, in dynasty, I think he has value long term, but in redraft, many people have even been dropping him. So it's definitely a fall from grace for him. Does he even have a touchdown this year, Drew? You mentioned he hasn't even gotten the end zone yet.
Oh, he's at one. Excuse me. He had
One,
one in
still
week
not great.
two. In
Yeah,
week
still
two.
not great. Yep.
So yeah.
And the Buck secondary is pretty weak, so it theoretically could be a good game for him. But I mean, I still have my fair share of caution with him. But I hope you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of like if it's not happening this week, he's just gonna have a lost season. So drop him, bench him, do what you got to do. But as we said several times with the apocalypse this week, you got to start some guys maybe you don't really want to start. And I think, despite the failures of this year, you can start him with some semi confidence this week. But all right, who's your second pick for fantasy?
Yeah, my second pick is actually a quarterback wide receiver pairing. I mean, we talked about them earlier. Both had a great connection last week in London. I'm taking Tua and Jalen Waddle. If you have them, start both of them against a bad Atlanta defense. I'm sorry, Drew. I think I might have taken one of your guys, probably Waddle. But yeah, I liked both those guys quite a bit. I had Tua. Drew, you had Waddle. They went each other. They went at each other last week. I unfortunately came out with a dub in Dynasty. So I think both these guys are going to continue their momentum against a bad defense, and then from there, they might be able to cement themselves in the lineups. But streamer definitely Tua, but Waddle if you have them, start them for sure.
Yeah, so I'm hardcore tilting now. I had Waddle. Great matchup. Everything you said is what I was going to say. Great matchup. Like the connection. I think he could have a big. I mean, we're not really at the halfway point, but we're almost there. I think he have a big second half to his rookie year. Yeah, and he looked really good last week. And he gets another enticing matchup against the Falcons. So, 100% agree with that pick. Yeah, I think even if the big thing would be like if Devontae Parker plays or not, because he'll probably take some targets away from him.
Hmm.
He obviously was inactive last week, but that's really the only concern. And I think even if he does play, I think Waddle will still be very relevant. Um, yeah, and the reason I was talking so much is because I was trying to figure out who I'm going to pick. I'll list some guys. So I do like Calvin Ridley a lot. I mean, he's too mainstream, I think, for a fantasy pick, but he's not had as disappointing of a season as A-Rob, but he still hasn't had like the monster wide receiver one, second, third round fantasy pick production I think everybody was expecting. So before either they had bye last week, but before that, he's had 10 points, 19 points, 14 points, 15 points, and then he was out and he was inactive against the Jets. So not like horrible production, but the fact that he only topped 19 is his highest and he only did that once, it's a little disappointing if you were expecting like high-end wide receiver one production. So I want to give him a mention, but my actual pick is going to be a guy I also mentioned at the top of the show, and that is Mr. Cortland Sutton, who has just been absolutely going off the last couple weeks. He had 25 points against the Steelers in week 5 and then 23 points against the Raiders last week. He has another good matchup. Like we said on Thursday night, maybe don't want to play guys, but the Browns don't have a great secondary. They're very banged up. And I think the Broncos are going to have to throw the ball. That's what happened last week. So Sutton did not have a great first half. But then they were down in the game. They needed to come back, and Teddy was just, Sutton, 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 Sutton. That could happen again this week. He had 11 targets in week 5, and he had 14 targets in week 6. So he's just a target machine. I think that's going to happen again this week. Again, another really, really enticing matchup against the Browns. They're 27th against fantasy wide receivers. So I have Sutton on my fantasy roster. I really like him. I was a little iffy about making the trade I did to get him, but he's really been paying out these last 2 weeks. And like you said, it is dangerous to start guys on Thursday night, but I think Cortland Sutton's going to be worth it because he could have another monster game, especially with all the targets, even if he doesn't find the end zone, which he has as well the past couple weeks.
Yeah, I think Sutton was one of my guys from last week actually, so I'm glad you brought him up again. Despite the Thursday night matchup, I think it's a fine play. Judy is not back yet. However, he's very close to returning, so you
Yeah,
might as well get as much value as you can out of Sutton for these next couple weeks.
and I
Um,
am.
but yeah, I think Sutton's a good play this week. So good job bringing him up.
Thank you. I mean, like I said, I had to tilt. He was just the guy that I
Yeah,
found that I
yeah.
liked because I like Waddle a little bit more, mainly because of the Thursday night thing. But I think Sutton's still a nice play. Okay, do you have anything else you want to add about the week slate or your fantasy picks?
Not really. I think we have some good games that we split on for sure. We'll see how it impacts the standings for next week, but I'm surprised I'm still in first, to be honest. I was in the cellar last year and now I'm making a return for the top. Let's go.
Yeah, I think currently the standings are the complete opposite of what they were last year.
Yep.
But it's okay. If it wasn't me that was going to be winning, I wish it was you, just not Chris.
Wow.
All right. So once again, we are the Zone Defense Podcast. We do these episodes in the NFL every single week with fantasy analysis and breaking news episodes sprinkled in there every once in a while as well. I think the trade deadline is right around the corner, if I'm not mistaken. So we might be doing some trade talk. There's not any crazy rumors at the moment, but you never know. So make sure you subscribe to YouTube and follow us on Spotify and Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, answers us on Apple Podcasts. So you don't miss any of that awesome content. Be sure you smash that like button down below and leave a comment about any of our fantasy takes. Who were your fantasy picks of the week with all the buys? Who are some guys that you are maybe little bit eerie of starting, but you're still doing it because you have to because all your guys are on bye. Let us know what you thought about our game picks, the records. Do you think Roman's going to hang on and still win? Or do you think maybe I can make a valiant comeback? Or Chris is kind of stuck in the middle there. Let us know whatever you think. We love reading your comments and we try to respond to them as quickly as we can. But once again, thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.